Good morning and welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Handwara Kapoor. Now, Britain has voted to leave EU in a historic divorce, says UK channels. Now, a development that will have wide-ranging economic ramifications for not just Britain, but the entire globe. Well, that is one big story that we are tracking this morning. Let us begin with the headlines. It is not official yet, but British news networks say UK has voted for Brexit. Pound sinks to a 31-year low as world markets feel the heat. Sensex opens 800 points lower. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Uzbekistan President Islam Karimov hold talks on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Trade and connectivity dominate discussions. 7 militants killed in 3 separate encounters in North Kashmir's Kupwara district. Militants opened fire during search operations. And United States Supreme Court delivers a 4-all verdict on plan to prevent 4 million illegal immigrants from being deported. Split comes as a blow to President Barack Obama's 2014 executive action. Well, the big story this morning in a historic vote that is being called by the BBC and other British news networks, the United Kingdom seems to have voted to leave the European Union. Now, news networks are forecasting a 52% to 48% margin for an exit vote. The developments will now open up questions about not only the actual exit of the UK from the 28-member European Union, but also about the future of British Prime Minister David Cameron's government. Now, exit polls had predicted a tight verdict, but as the votes began to be counted, the Leave side started accumulating steady gains, not only in places where it was supposed to win, but also in unexpected locations. Now, the news spelled a bloodbath in the stock markets. The pound sank to a 31-year low against the dollar. Traders are also expecting the worst when European markets open. Well, Indian markets also took a huge beating on Friday morning, even as the UK referendum results poured in. The Sensex opened over 900 points down, while Nifty crashed over 270 points. The rupee, meanwhile, nosedived 74 paise against the US dollar to 67.99 in early trade, the lowest since the 1st of March, as Leeds showed the Leave camp ahead in the UK vote. Now, news reports quoted sources saying that RBI is intervening in the forex market with the liquidity support. Well, according to AFP news agency, Japan's Nikkei stock also dived more than 8% in the Brexit fears. Now, Reuters reported that the circuit breaker has kicked in for Nikkei's future, which has halted trading for 10 minutes for the Japan stock futures. Well, Britain's decision on their country's fate is also likely to have fallout across the world. Well, on the home turf, experts say that with Britain's exit from the EU, India will feel the heat due to volatility in the international financial markets.
All eyes are on Britain as it votes in the referendum, as the global economy will face Brexit's ripple effects. If EU loses one of its members, India too will be singed. The rupee may depreciate because of the double effect of foreign fund outflow and dollar rise. This may put pressure on petrol and diesel prices. 800-odd Indian companies operating in Britain and employing more than 1 lakh people will have to revamp their investment plans.
We are watching the situation. It is for the people in the United Kingdom to take a call. Either way, we will be observing the developments.
The EU is India's largest single export market with a population of nearly 500 million. India's bilateral trade with Britain stood at $14.02 billion in 2015-16, out of which $8.83 billion was in exports and $5.19 billion was in imports. The trade balance touched a positive $3.64 billion. Moreover, if Brexit becomes a reality, British imports would reduce by 25% globally, and this may severely hurt the Indian export market.
Britain from EU will have significant on the currency value, and if that happens, both the British pound as well as euro may depreciate further. And in that eventuality, when Indian exports are competing with these countries in the third country, they may face the heat.
India has been negotiating a free trade agreement with the EU, and the outcome of the vote will have a direct bearing on India's strategy. If Britain stays put, then India need not to rework the current line of negotiations. But if Britain quits, then this will create an additional need for India to ink a similar pact separately with the UK. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, news from the US now, and this country's Supreme Court on Thursday dealt US President Barack Obama a harsh defeat by blocking his plan to spare millions of illegal immigrants from deportation in a split 4-all ruling that he called frustrating to those aiming to fix America's broken immigration system. The ruling, coming 7 months before Obama's term in office ends, marked the latest success of his Republican adversaries. The United States top court delivered a split verdict on a plan to prevent 4 million illegal migrants from being deported. The divide comes as a blow to President Barack Obama's 2014 executive action in which he bypassed Congress to protect the immigrants. Obama called the deadlock heartbreaking.
I think it is heartbreaking for the millions of immigrants who made their lives here, who've raised families here, who hoped for the opportunity to work, pay taxes, serve in our military, and more fully contribute to this country we all love in an open way.
The US president told reporters that the US immigration system had been broken for 2 decades and the ruling will set it back even further.
For more than 2 decades now, our immigration system, everybody acknowledges, has been broken. And the fact that the Supreme Court wasn't able to issue a decision today doesn't just set the system back even further. It takes us further from the country that we aspire to be.
Obama's 2014 plan was tailored to let roughly 4 million people who have lived in the US since 2010, have no criminal record and have children who are US citizens or lawful permanent residents get into a program that shields them from deportation and supplies work permits.
See what I saw today, it certainly and undeniably breaks my heart. But I will tell you this, it will never break my spirit, nor should it ever break your spirit. And it only strengthens my resolve to fight for fairness, and it only strengthens my resolve and our resolve to fight for comprehensive immigration reform.
The ruling is now likely to further amplify the role the immigration issue will play in the presidential election campaign. Presumptive Republican nominee Donald Trump had already called for all illegal immigrants to be deported and pledged a wall between Mexico and the US if he is elected. The case reached the Supreme Court after a lower court struck down Obama's 2014 executive order last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Uzbekistan President Islam Karimov yesterday. Both the leaders discussed ways to deepen bilateral cooperation between the two nations. The meeting followed Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Bilateral talks on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Uzbekistan President Islam Karimov discussed a wide array of issues on Thursday, chief among them being enhancing bilateral trade and improving connectivity. India will become a full-fledged member of the SCO along with Pakistan. Both were admitted as observers at the 2005 summit. SCO was formed at a summit in Shanghai in 2001 by the presidents of Russia, China, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. The Prime Minister, who is on a second visit to the country within a year, conveyed India's decision to extend the e-tourist visa to Uzbek nationals. Both the leaders noted that cooperation was growing in defence and an MOU on cybersecurity had been concluded. India is also expected to organise the Festival of India and an Indian trade exhibition in Uzbekistan to mark 25 years of Uzbekistan's independence and the 25th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations with India. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And now an update on India's bid for an NSG membership. Well, even after the special session of the NSG plenary, China belligerently led the opposition to India's membership of the NSG at a 3-hour post-dinner meet, which also ended in a deadlock. Now, reports suggested that deadlock still continues as the group could not reach a consensus on this issue. Brazil, Austria and Ireland have also joined China in expressing their reservations on inducted India, which has not yet signed the NPT.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Chinese President Xi Jinping in Tashkent for bilateral talks on Thursday. Ahead of the meeting, however, China sought to delink its opposition to India's membership of NSG from Sino-Indian ties, saying it does not concern the bilateral relationship.
Prime Minister Modi urged China to make a fair and objective assessment of India's application and judge it on its own merits. He said that China should contribute to the emerging consensus in Seoul.
Japan is understood to have even welcomed India's application, asking that it be considered. The Indian camp in Seoul, led by Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar, is looking at the special session with cautious optimism. Diplomats in the know say there may be several possible outcomes from the session. The NSG could agree to put off the decision until the next plenary next year or at a special plenary later this year. It could also agree to China's demand for a criteria-based process and refer it to a committee that could involve delays as India and Pakistan's current applications are considered. For acceptance as a member, India needs to ensure every NSG member is on board, as even one no vote would scuttle its chances. India's bid is opposed not only by China but also by countries like Turkey, Ireland, Austria and New Zealand. The final decision is likely to be known only by Friday when the group issues a statement on the plenary. Meanwhile, France has joined the US and the UK in supporting India's bid, urging on other NSG members to do the same. Russian President Vladimir Putin has also said that India's case was special and must be supported within the ambits of international law. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from Germany now. An masked gunman stormed a German cinema on Thursday afternoon, taking hostages before he was killed by the police. The rifle-wielding man entered the cinema in Wehrheim near Frankfurt in western Germany, with the police receiving reports of 4 shots also being fired. However, no one was reportedly injured. German government said that the attacker acted alone and appeared to have been disturbed. The motive for the attack remains unclear at the moment, but German police say that there is no indication that the incident was terror-related. Prior to the attack, police had repeatedly warned that Germany could be targeted by the Islamic State. Now let's get you some more international news in the World Wrap. 6 Lashkar-e-Jhangvi terrorists were charged by a Pakistani anti-terrorism court in the 2009 Sri Lankan cricket team attack case. 3 suspects are on bail while the remaining ones are held in a jail. The court summoned prosecution witnesses on 30th of June. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon condemned North Korea's practice missile launch on Wednesday, calling it a brazen and irresponsible act. In a statement read by his deputy spokesperson, he accused the nation of violating its international obligations, saying that North Korea's actions are dangerous to the security of their own country. The UN has also warned that fighting against Islamic State in Iraq could force up to 2.3 million people from their homes this year as the battle for Fallujah grinds. Baghdad has officially declared a victory. However, according to UN, more than 3.4 million people across Iraq have already been forced to leave their homes. A tornado and a hailstorm killed at least 78 people and injured nearly 500 in the East Chinese province of Jiangsu. Chinese President Xi Jinping ordered all-out rescue efforts to help those affected by the storms. Meanwhile, medical staff are making all efforts to treat the injured. In News at 10, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
Life after death was a cardinal belief in the Harappan civilization. Reflecting this is the skeleton of a middle-aged woman with gold bangles. Excavated from Rakhigadi in Haryana, it's an example of the burial practices in those times. Much like the Egyptian mummies, vessels, eatables, ornaments were kept near the dead body, in the hope that they would be of use to the person in the next world.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Thursday started his 5-day China visit, pitching for more investments in India. Finance Minister addressed the business forum Invest in India, in which several Chinese businessmen and heads of state-run firms participated. The minister has also interacted with the Chinese wealth funds as well as banks in Beijing, seeking investment in the infrastructure space in India. On day one, he met Bank of China's chairman Tian Goli and also held a roundtable meet with the heads of sovereign wealth funds, institutional investors and banks. Now, his other engagements during the 5-day visit includes talks with his Chinese counterpart, Lu Jiwei. Arun Jaitley will also attend the board governors meeting of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or the AIIB, in which India is the second largest investor after China.
I think in the immediate future, we'll certainly maintain the growth rates which we have. And hopefully, if there is a good monsoon this year, which is expected to be, we have a potential to improve upon those growth rates. Even in an unsupportive global environment, we probably would be the only economy which moves upwards of 7.5%, more towards an 8% growth rate. And I think India, therefore, in these roadmaps, offers a very attractive opportunity, because this size of economic activity is now going to carry on and expand over the next few decades.
And back home, the Income Tax Department has assigned senior officers to be a single point of contact to attract potential declarations under the domestic black money window. Now, this is to assure declarants of confidential and hassle-free disclosures. The Central Board of Direct Taxes, or the CBDT, has also decided setting up of facilitation centres across the country, giving a wide publicity and monitoring at the highest level. The jurisdictional principal commissioner, or the Commission of Income Tax, has been made to designate the authority to whom disclosures are to be made. Now, designated officers have now been asked to provide all procedural facilities to avoid any requirement of any additional interaction with anyone else in the office. The 4-month window allows the domestic black money holders to declare their wealth by paying a tax penalty of 45%. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley had earlier asked people with undisclosed assets to use this limited period window to avoid any trouble. News from Maharashtra now. Well, the BJP has dared its alliance partner Shiv Sena to take divorce from them, escalating the war of words between the two. Now, in an article published on Wednesday in the party's Maharashtra unit's fortnightly publication, BJP spokesperson Madhav Bhandari dared Shiv Sena to walk out of the alliance while enumerating the sacrifices the party has made in the last 25 years to keep the tie-up intact. The article also attacks Sena MP Sanjay Raut for his recent Nizam remarks, now criticizing Raut for his selective vision. Sanjay Raut had recently said, remember, that the BJP-led governments at the centre and in Maharashtra were worse than the government of Nizam.
It is important to see that whom the Indian voter supports. And that is more important because Shiv Sena, whenever it criticizes the government, it is not on particular person, but it is pertaining to a policy of the government which we always criticize.
And with the news coming in from North Kashmir's Handwara district, a fresh encounter. Now, militants' death toll has risen to 7 since yesterday. A joint team of 21 Rashtriya Rifles and Handwara police are engaged in a gun battle since last night with a group of militants hidden in the forest area. Now, one militant has been killed in the ongoing encounter. Yesterday, 2 separate gunfights took place in Kupwara district. 3 militants were killed in the first encounter after a joint team of army and police acting on a tip-off launched a search operation in the nearby forest areas. Meanwhile, another shootout between security forces and militants broke out in Drugmula area of Kupwara district on Thursday evening, where 3 more militants were killed. Moving on in the bulletin now, well, after successfully launching PSLV C-30 from Sriharikota, now ISRO, as part of the Make in India initiative, is seeking the support of private sector investments in spacecraft systems. Now, inaugurating the conference on enabling a spacecraft systems realization through industries in Bangalore, ISRO chairman A.S. Kiran Kumar said that it was imperative that the Space Research Organization join hands with the industry in its effort towards enhancing its capacity in order to meet the increased demand for space-based services. He informed delegates about India's potential to capture a sizable portion of business in the international space market. Around 110 industries in aerospace business participated in the conference, who presented their capabilities and also expressed their commitment to partner with ISRO. On to some sports news, and a former captain and India's most successful bowler Anil Kumble was yesterday appointed as the national cricket team's coach for next 1 year. Now, BCCI announced the decision after discussion with all the stakeholders. Now, Kumble, who will be the first full-time Indian coach after 16 years, will start his tenure with India's 4-test tour of the West Indies in the month of July.
After doing discussions with the various stakeholders, we have taken the final call that for next 1 year, Mr. Anil Kumble will be the head coach.
BCCI ended the suspense over who will coach Team India, handing the reins of the national cricket team to India's most successful bowler. Former India captain Anil Kumble was appointed coach of the national side for 1 year, with his tenure to begin with India's 4-test tour of the West Indies in July.
I'd like to thank the BCCI for showing faith in me, and the committee, the Cricket Advisory Committee, for showing faith in me. And yeah, it's a huge responsibility, like I mentioned. I've always put my hand up for challenges, and I'm ready to take up this role.
45-year-old Kumble pipped former team director Ravi Shastri, Australians Tom Moody and Stuart Law, and a host of others to clinch the high-profile position. The decision followed an elaborate selection process headed by a 3-member cricket advisory committee comprising greats Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Lakshman and Saurav Ganguly.
And I think we have kept it very transparent. As per the set criteria, who qualified, who did not qualify, and their presentations, how they can take Indian cricket forward. So I think all that has been considered. There was no such limitation that we have to look for only Indian coach. We wanted the best for the Indian team.
Kumble is India's highest wicket taker in both tests and ODIs, finishing with 619 and 337 wickets respectively in a career spanning almost 2 decades. After retirement, Kumble had a stint as a mentor with IPL teams Royal Challengers Bangalore and Mumbai Indians. He is the first Indian to be appointed full-time coach since Kapil Dev resigned in September 2000. After the 2015 World Cup, the post of head coach had fallen vacant. Ravi Shastri had run the team as its director since before his contract expired after the World T20. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that's it from me and my team in this edition of news. Thanks so much for watching.